Welcome to the crossover. Brandon Kravitz, Mike Bianchi, pure, unadulterated entertainment on your radio or streaming device. What's going on, Bulldog?
Are you streaming this? Am I on video too?
You are on video. You
Okay,
are
well
going to
let me get
land
my
on
let,
the Zoneheads YouTube channel.
let me get my lighting good. How's that? Huh?
All right. What are
I
you
got a
what are you
little light.
working with over there?
I got a light.
Was it a lamp?
No, it's one of those little backlights that all you
Wow.
social media people have. Yeah,
Bianchi, you're an influencer.
yeah. I'm an yeah, I'm the furthest thing from the hawk to a girl. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's good to know. So let's actually use that as a semi-smooth transition. Speaking of influence, let's talk about being under the influence. You spoke to one of my favorite athletes of all time just the other day, Ricky Williams,
Mm-hmm.
and you guys spoke about the ban being lifted on cannabis from the NCAA. I know that your views have changed on this, but I'm going to ask it this way. Why have why has your stance changed over the years on athletes smoking weed? Have you kind of checked in with yourself on what exactly has changed for you? What's different today than the way that it was in the past for you to change your mind on this?
I don't think my view has changed about athletes smoking weed. For the longest time, always thought weed should be legal. I mean, and we're seeing it more and more become legalized in this country. I never thought weed should be on any banned list when it comes to the NCAA, the NFL, any of that. So I don't think my stance has changed. My only stance was, if it is on a ban list, all right, and you're still smoking it, then you're not don't smoke it if it's on the ban list. And that was always my issue with Ricky Williams. I mean, Ricky Williams knew it was on the ban list. He knew he was going to get tested. He even said in the interview, I was in the drug program in the NFL for 10 years. All right. And he kept getting busted for testing positive for pot. But Ricky Williams essentially said, listen, I see, the trainers would come down the aisle of the plane offering us all these pharmaceuticals to ease our pain and to make us sleep better. He goes, I could just smoke a little pot and I was fine. And it was safer to me. So I wasn't going to give up that freedom. So, I understand Ricky Williams. He's a different cat. All right. I would still have not made the decisions he made and gotten banned from the NFL, but I'm all for and I've always been getting pot off the ban list.
Okay, I misunderstood where your stance was on that, but that's good to know. I think one of the things that maybe has changed for the perception of THC is that you can now readily find this stuff, not as much in Florida, though it is present, in form that is not smokable. So you can chew gummies or
Right.
whatever. Obviously, people have been putting it in brownies forever, but I think part of the reason maybe that it's had this negative stigma for all this time, whereas something like Vicodin doesn't, is that weed smoking is a little invasive. Like you walk by that room in the hallway and you're like, well, that person's high as a kite.
Right.
Where you walk by a room and somebody popped a Vicodin, you'd have no idea. So maybe that is part of the difference, but amazing. I hated Ricky Williams when he left the Dolphins for that. I was 16 and I didn't know any better, but it's refreshing to hear that perspective now.
I've always said if Jack Daniels is legal, then pot should be legal.
Jack is way worse.
Right.
I've made much dumber decisions.
All right. Something else that came up this week. Miami Herald columnist Greg Cody wrote just emasculated, just took the Dolphins apart for dragging their feet on the Tua negotiations. Obviously, everybody knows you're a big Dolphins fan. He said they're embarrassing Tua. They're humiliating Tua. It's the wrong decision. They need to ante up and pay Tua, and maybe the damage has already been done, considering how they've dragged their feet on this. Do you rip the Dolphins for what they're doing, or do you understand?
Well, first of all, it seems like there's some conflicting reporting going on. I think Greg Cody, I don't know if he's making this up or what. I know he's a very credible reporter, so maybe that's not the case. Jeff Darlington of ESPN says that the negotiations are still very amicable between the two sides. So it seems like there's two sides to the story. I don't blame
Tua. Didn't seem like they were very amicable about a month ago when he was asked about it on camera, and he looked very annoyed to me.
I don't think he likes being asked about it. I think that's definitely true, and maybe that's where that perception is coming from. But I don't blame the Dolphins. If I was running the show, I would have already paid Tua, said, hey, we found a quarterback. Let's just move this thing forward. We're trying to win a Super Bowl with the roster we have now. Let's not rock the boat. But if it's not like Tua is blemish free in his career. If the Miami Dolphins behind the scenes say, we like him, but we don't love him, I don't know that I can blame them for that. So if they want to take the stance of, hey, let's just play chicken with the guy and see how far he's willing to take this, if that's the approach that they want to take, I don't really blame them for that. Is it disrespectful to Tua? Sure, but it's the NFL. Players are disrespected all the time in this.
It just seems like no other team does that with a quarterback who has.
It's not true. The Ravens did it with Lamar Jackson. He was an MVP.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
You know, and then, okay, so the Bengals didn't do it with Burrow. Burrow took that team to a Super Bowl. Tua is still, I like Tua, and I think
I just always point to Trevor Lawrence. What has he done? And why is he getting the money and Tua's not? That's what I always point to Trevor.
Because he's the golden boy. I think because he was the number 1 overall pick. I think he is still within that organization through analysts. I think he is still gifted this grace period of well, it's okay that you're not great yet because we know that you're gonna be. Whereas Tua, people have been poking holes in Tua since he got drafted, and he has created more question marks. Even though he's been the better quarterback, he has been better than Trevor Lawrence, without a doubt. But I understand if the Dolphins want to take that stance, I don't blame them.
I've got a great idea for Tua. He needs to buy a long, flowing, blonde Goldilocks Trevor Lawrence wig.
Yes.
Then he'll get the contract.
That's the best idea you've ever had. How early is too early to start prepping for your fantasy football draft? Okay, look, the fireworks went off on the 4th of July, and the second that smoke subsided, I said, you know what? I think it's time. And I actually waited longer. Usually I'm about a mid-June guy for my prep. I waited until after the 4th of July, showing great restraint and patience. But the time is nigh, as like
when you did the promo earlier this week on your radio show about, is it too early to start, prepping for fantasy? We played that promo about 3 or 4 times, and we just started laughing every time we played it. And we were like, 4th of July, like April Fool's Day is not too early for Kravitz to start preparing for next year's fantasy draft.
Well, it's, I'm thinking about it around around April Fool's Day, but I mean, really starting to get rankings set, mock drafts, and things of that nature.
I'm more late July. I think 4th of July is a little too early, but
I guess my question would be, what else are you doing? At this point,
certainly not watching baseball. That's for sure.
Oh, was this year not the year, Mike?
I was gonna try this year to get back into it, but didn't do it. All right, Big 12 Media Day just ended. One of the big storylines, at least early in Big 12 Media Days, involved the team you grew up a fan of, the Florida State Seminoles. Brett Yormark said, "Hey," the commissioner of Big 12 said, "Hey, we're still open for business when it comes to realignment." As a guy who grew up a Florida State fan, would you like to see Florida State in the Big 12?
It would decimate the ACC, so I'm going to go with no. I'm good with where the conferences are right now. I would like to see this play out. Can we stop realigning when we haven't even seen what realignment looks like yet? Have you looked at these conferences? I mean, it's one thing to think about it. Have you actually gone to ESPN.com and looked at how many teams are in the Big 10, the SEC, and the Big 12? These are massive conferences, and we haven't even seen what this looks like yet. No, I am not for that. Keep FSU with the rivalries that they have in the conference that they're in.
Rivalries? What, like Clemson?
Miami, Clemson.
And
whoever else pops up. Virginia Tech has been a rival in the past.
Stop it. Stop it. They'd have just as many rivals in the Big 12, for crying out loud.
I'm not saying I wouldn't like it. It would be really cool to have UCF and FSU inside of the same conference.
Bring
But can we
Miami
stop
over.
with realignment for 5 minutes?
Okay.
Can we
All right, we'll stop. We'll stop.
please?
Okay.
All right, we're also going to stop the crossover. Mike Bianchi, Brandon Kravitz, the crossover.